Okay, the time is 2 p.m., so I will call the Tuesday, March 25th, 2025 regular council meeting to order and begin with a land acknowledgement that the City of Fort Saskatchewan is located on Treaty 6 territory and Métis Nation of Alberta, District 11. We recognize that we stand upon the land that carries the footsteps of many Indigenous peoples, including the Nihilwak, Dene, Blackfoot, Saulteaux, Nakota Sioux, and Métis. The city honors the First Peoples of this land and is committed to fostering reconciliation through relationship building, knowledge gathering, and education. And since we have some guests in the room here today, just for housekeeping before we proceed, the emergency exits are through the chamber doors, or if they were to be blocked, they would be at the back door. If the alarm were to run, I just suggest following staff. They will get you to the muster point. So that's the best advice I can give anybody. They'll know what doors we're going through. So welcome everybody. So I will begin with a motion for consent agenda for March 25th, and we've got several items on it, which are 3.1, approval of the March 11 minutes, 9.2, land matter for 10808 98th Avenue, 9.3 bylaw C7-25 to amend the elections bylaw, and 10.2 subdivision endorsement extension. And of course, if anybody wishes to have any of these severed and spoken to, you can mention that and we would take them out. So, Councillor Abatoye.
Good afternoon. I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda. Thank you.
As presented. Okay, thank you. Okay, just a second. Okay, thank you. Okay, Councillor Harris.
How can we deal with item 9.3, a bylaw for 3 readings in a consent agenda, if they need 3 separate and distinct reading plus a unanimous consent within a consent agenda? That's not possible.
Through your worship to Councillor Harris, there are other jurisdictions that under consent agenda they do provide for the full approval, including 3 readings of a bylaw under consent agenda. It's not a limitation under our meeting procedures bylaw. It is appropriate to do. But of course, if you have...
Well, I have no problem doing it that way, but I've never heard of such a thing. And which jurisdictions are we talking about out of general interest?
Well, I know as one example, the city of Edmonton. I can't list any more off the top of my head, but perhaps others can, but that's one.
Well, okay, well then this is part and parcel of the learning experience, because consent agendas are relatively new and I've never heard of a bylaw going through in this context.
Okay, he's answered your question. We actually did do this at one previous meeting.
No, not with me.
Yeah, well, we did. So anyway, asked and answered. All right, so I'm not hearing.
Through your worship to Councillor Harris, it is a fairly common practice. I understand the concern, but the bylaw would still be getting 3 separate readings, and the unanimous consent is required. So we do need unanimous consent in order to adopt the bylaw on the consent agenda, but it is fairly common. Strathcona, Beaumont, many other, Sturgeon County, many other communities do follow this practice. So there's nothing atypical about it, just a little bit new for us.
Okay, thank you. So with the new director, we're seeing a few new changes, and that's fine. All right, so I will close the motion. Please cast your vote. Oh, I'm not in yet. And that is carried unanimously. Thank you very much. So item 3.1 is done under consent. This is an opportunity for delegations. If anybody wishes to come and speak to any of the items that are left on the agenda, which would be the fire hall scoping study timeline, you could proceed to the front and speak and have 5 minutes. Not seeing anybody coming up to the front. We will get started with public hearing number 1 for bylaw C125 to amend the land use bylaw C2320 Forest Ridge, second and third reading. And the process, as always described prior to opening the public hearing, is that once I call the public hearing to order, then administration will present. Following administration presenting, council asks questions. Following that, anybody who wishes to speak in favor or opposed has an opportunity to come forward and would have 5 minutes to speak in favor or opposed to the bylaw, and then answer any questions council might have. Once everybody's got through that, then we invite administration back. Any final questions? Then we close the public hearing and go immediately into business arising from the public hearing. So welcome, Taryn.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Your Worship, members of council. My name is Terrence Samra. I'm a planner with the city, here to present a brief summary of an amendment to the Forest Ridge Outline Plan and bylaw C1-25 to amend the land use bylaw to redistrict lands and include a new special district in Forest Ridge. For the outline of the presentation, we'll start with a brief overview of the location. Then we'll move into the proposed development, what type of development would be expected with the amendments. Then we'll follow up with information about the areas that are to be redistricted to FRSDH, RC, and FRSO. We'll also talk about the FRSDH as a special district, then we'll follow with information about the outline plan amendment and administration support. And lastly, we'll talk about the public hearing communication process before getting into questions. So let's get into the location overview. The site is located within an undeveloped portion of the Forest Ridge neighborhood, east of West Park Drive, north of residential development along along Woodhill Lane, west of residential development along Willow Link, and south of the development along Ficus Way. The neighborhood consists primarily of low-density residential. A future school site is located to the east of the subject area and includes a playground structure. A medium-density site with a neighborhood service node is planned immediately to the west of the subject area along West Park Drive. The proposed development is well connected to the surrounding neighborhoods through West Park Drive, a collector road. Willow Link and Woodbridge Link are also in close proximity. These roads provide excellent connectivity for vehicles. Point of Pins Trail, along with other multi-use trails within the surrounding road network, provide excellent connectivity for active transportation users. Now let's discuss the application. To begin, in October of 2024, Davis Consulting Group, on behalf of West Park Land Company, approached administration regarding their next development stage in Forest Ridge. They are proposing a mix of different housing types, which include semi-detached and townhouses on compact lots. An example of the compact townhouses can be seen on the screen. The characteristics that make the semi-detached and townhouses compact is the additional building height, reduced site depth, reduced site widths, and the reduced minimum parking requirement for two-story developments. The semi-detached and townhouses would be accessed by a lane and can accommodate a rear attached or detached garages. Another dwelling type is the single detached on narrow lots. The characteristics that make the single detached dwellings on narrow lots is the reduced site width to accommodate an 18-foot building pocket. And lastly, the housing type, or the last housing type, is a standard single detached on conventional lots. To accommodate this proposed development, the standard single detached unconventional lots will be developed by the RC district. This RC district is a standard district within the land use bylaw and commonly used for single detached, semi-detached dwellings, and townhouses within Fort Saskatchewan. Semi-detached and townhouses on compact lots will be developed by the FRSO district, which is a special district that was approved by council last year. The FRSO district can only be replicated in Forest Ridge and nowhere else. And the last district that will be used is a new special district, FRSDH, the Forest Ridge Single Detached Housing District. This is the old DCA 18 district that has been modified. The purpose has remained the same, which is to accommodate street-oriented single detached dwellings. However, there have been some changes to accommodate an 18-foot building pocket, and we'll discuss more of this conversion of the DCA 18 to the FRSDH later in the presentation. Looking at the redistricting overview, I've highlighted areas that will be redistricted. In light purple, those are the areas that will be redistricted to RC. As mentioned, this to accommodate single detached dwellings. Approximately 2.1 hectares of land will be redistricted to RC. The area in yellow will be redistricted to FRSO and is approximately 1.2 hectares. This will accommodate semi-detached and and three-story townhouses on compact lots. The area in white is to be redistricted to the special district FRSDH, which is approximately 1.8 hectares. Please note that since the FRSDH district is replacing the existing DCA 18 district, all existing DCA 18 would become FRSDH. And I've shown this area in light blue where this replacement would occur, and this is approximately 1.8 hectares. The remaining undeveloped areas would remain as urban reserve until an appropriate district for development is required. Now I want to speak about the FRSDH district. Originally, this was the DCA 18 district. However, this direct control will be converted to a special district, and this special district is only applicable in Forest Ridge. The purpose of the changes is to accommodate an 18-foot building pocket. The old DCA 18 district was used to accommodate a 20-foot building pocket. In essence, this FRSDH is providing a different housing size within the neighborhood. I've also included key changes that were made between the two districts. I've specifically highlighted the site widths, 8.5 and 7.9, as this change was to accommodate the 18-foot building pocket. Other changes were also made to accommodate this new building product. I do want to speak to why the switch from direct control to special district. You will want to use a direct control when there are unique conditions or constraints that make using a standard district impractical or impossible. Couple examples are if you have an irregularly shaped parcel, or if there's a parcel adjacent to a river. Both these parcels have a unique constraint or a condition that would make it difficult to use a standard district from the land use bylaw. By applying a direct control, you can shape the regulations in a way to ensure that the proposed development that would occur on those parcels would minimize any impacts to the surrounding areas. A special district is similar to a direct control, as you can create control for a specific area. As mentioned, the FRSDH district only applies to Forest Ridge. However, the reason to switch to the special district is that the development area in Forest Ridge lacks that exceptional circumstance or constraint that would warrant those heightened regulations. Therefore, using a special district would be considered more appropriate, as it can be a tool for accommodating innovative development or site-specific design needs without the additional implications of a direct control. Next, let's move on to the outline plan amendment. An outline plan's purpose is to articulate the fine-grained details such as block configuration, road, and lane locations. As for reference, I've included the proposed outline plan map on the screen. The hatched area is the designated area where FRSO product may be developed. Anytime FRSO housing product is proposed, it must be identified on the outline plan. As seen in the image, I've circled in purple, this is the existing FRSO product that was approved by council last year, and that is 3-story and 2-story townhouses. The purpose of this application is to add more 3-story and semi-detached housing product, and I've circled I've circled it in black. Please note any future development of FRSO housing product will require an amendment to the outline plan, and outline plan amendments are decided by council resolution rather than by bylaw. Next, we'll speak about the conformance to the city's planning documents. Does the purpose of the amendments align with the policies of the municipal development plan and the West Park Area Structure Plan? The RC, FRSO, and FRSDH districts are creating a neighborhood that contain a mix of different housing types that will meet the broad housing needs of the community. By integrating all these types of dwellings, the amendments create a neighborhood that provide housing diversity and market affordability, and which will accommodate preferences of different lifestyles. However, supporting policy within the West Park Area Structure Plan does require an amendment to the outline plan. The West Park Area Structure Plan policy mentions that any innovative development, such as compact housing, must be identified on the outline plan, and therefore a Forest Ridge outline plan amendment is required. Following first reading, public hearing was advertised in the Fort Record for 2 consecutive weeks. Notices were delivered to property owners within 100 meters of the amendment areas. Notice of the proposed bylaw was posted on the city's website and social media accounts, and no responses were received. That concludes my presentation, and administration is here to answer any questions that council may have.
Okay, thank you. And remind everyone we are in a public hearing, so it is only questions, not debating with them. Councillor Blizzard.
Hi, thanks for all the information. Just a couple of questions. The one area that you had circled on Ficus Way, Ficus something, Ficus
Way,
whatever.
Blizzard.
Does that already have some houses on it? Like, and there it's not even, you're not even showing it. You had it rezoned in one of the maps, but here it's not in the black outline. Oh, north of that, where there's no houses, like it's not even in your black gridded outline.
Through your worship, Council Blizzard. So the development along Ficus Way was in one of the previous stages of Forest Ridge. This aerial image is a little bit outdated. We don't have an updated one, but their housing will eventually be coming soon, I would imagine. Yes.
But that's the one that we're redistricting to this, whatever, special DC8. Yeah.
The development that is on FRSDH, I can actually pull the outline.
Yeah,
actually, this map is probably
area,
better.
right?
Yeah.
So it's already got houses, and yet, so the new houses will need to just have 18-foot pockets?
Through your worship to Councilor Blizzard, yes, they would have been developed at a 20-foot building pocket. So even if you're reducing the size, they would still comply with the regulations, because even though they were built at a larger size, so if you're shrinking the regulation, they still meet.
So, but there's already existing lots. Are they just squeezing then one more lot in between the existing buildings?
Through your worship, Council Blizzard, no, there wouldn't be no additional extra lot being added.
So I'm just confused as to the 18 feet then. They're 20 already, and it looks like they're all drawn out at 20.
Yes, that is correct, Councilor Blizzard. But just because the regulations are changing, like the development there would stay the way it is. There's no, like I mentioned, no additional lot being added.
You just want to get away from calling it DCA 18.
Through your worship, I wouldn't say we're getting away. We are making the change to a special district. As I kind of mentioned in the presentation, direct controls are used for certain, say, unique circumstances or constraints, and Forest Ridge, as you know, like those constraints don't exist. So the conversion to the special district would be the
Okay, so you're just kind of grouping it all together, even though they won't change pocket size. Okay.
Through your worship, Councilman, that's correct.
Just trying to get it straight in my head because I saw this. And the other question I have is, so 3-story townhouses, they don't have a basement?
Through your worship, Councilor Blizzard, the developer is here to answer more, like could probably provide more information about it. But yeah, so the way the 3-story townhouses is basically your garage is the main, and then you have a story, which I would imagine is your kitchen, living room, and then your bedrooms on
Okay,
top.
it just saves space and has that garage ability. Okay,
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you. That's all I've got.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Harris, questions?
Have you had a conversation with the developer? Maybe we can deal with this later when they make their presentation. This seems to be kind of haphazard development. You think they just come in and just finish what's there. You know, if you know the cost of mobilizing to service this area, you know, when we get to that stage, seems to be. I would have thought they would have just come in here and just done that whole area. This is not a big amount of land. Have they indicated to you what their status is, or are they looking at more lot development for next year?
Through your worship, Councillor Harris, I'm not aware. I'm not too sure how to answer that question. That might be a further conversation to have with the developer. I don't have that information at this time.
So they haven't talked to you. Okay, well, I'll ask the question to the developer when they come forward.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Macon.
Thank you. Thanks for your presentation. I'm just curious. I know that your recommendation is to support it. Just going through the presentation, I'm just wondering if, from a planning perspective, there are any cons to this type of development.
Through your worship to Councillor Macon, I'm not aware of any cons. As I kind of mentioned, the reason administration does support is you have that housing diversity, you have the housing mix, right? Residents, they have indicated through us when we create the municipal development plan, is when we create those policies, that having this mix is always good, creates that affordability, that market affordability. So having a wide range of houses is always great for a neighborhood, and we're following our policies within a municipal development plan. So
Perfect.
I'm not aware of any cons.
Okay, thank you.
Round two, Councillor Harris.
I should ask this question before, but maybe the developer can do it. Obviously, we're changing the density in this area over what was originally proposed when this area was first anticipated within the overall area structure plan area. How much additional development is likely to come out? In other words, net developable lots coming out of this configuration of land use districts in this area. Are they seeing an uptick in development lots of 10%, 15%, 30%? Can somebody answer that question over what would have been the case had this all been basically an R1 or an RC district?
Through your worship to Councillor Harris, so for the Forest Ridge, the density target was 25 to 30, and although they are proposing some denser development within this area, we have basically asked to maintain that density target within 25 to 30. So we are monitoring that, and if they reach that target, they won't be able to do any more higher density product within this area, but they are not at that number yet.
Yeah, no, and I have no concerns with it. Obviously, you know, I support the whole idea of using the land more efficiently. It's just a question of how much more efficiently, you know, ultimately. That inures to the benefit of the developer because they get more developable front feet. Well, the same front feet, but they've got more lots that they ultimately can sell. So it's good for them from a financial perspective. We look at it from the standpoint of how many developed lots will we see to help us deal with housing in our community. So that's kind of why I was asking the question.
Through your worship to Councillor Harris, I do not have the exact number, like what that difference would be, but I think it would be within that maximum range. So if our maximum is 30 dwelling units per hectare, that would be the maximum what they would be achieving.
Okay, good, thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Nguyen.
Yeah, thanks for the presentation this afternoon, Darren. Just curious, so 18-foot frontage in this product type, how much of the actual lot is covered by, or maybe not covered by anything concrete or decking or garage and building pockets? So, and how does that conform with, I guess, our overall vision for this type of development?
Due worship to Councillor, I'll try to answer this question, and then I'm pretty sure Ms. Shindy can probably jump in as well. As for the coverage site, there's no change in the coverage like that. None of that has been changed. The maximum,
correct, yeah, just kind of looking for a percentage of, you know, of usable maybe green space that an owner would eventually see.
Yeah, through your worship, Councillor Nguyen, definitely. Yeah, so right now the numbers are 53%. That's all buildings and structures on site, but the way the I guess the housing products is set up, it really gives options to the owner, right? If they choose to build a garage or they they don't want a yard space, that option is always there. You can, when calculating this coverage, we don't include concrete, right? So it's only building the structure. So if someone decides, I don't want green space, I don't want a backyard, because I don't want to maintain it, I want more driveway, it's easier to maintain, then that option is there. But if someone does want that private amenity space, that option is there too. So this product does provide that. But there's that coverage of 53% that you cannot exceed.
Right, and that'd be kind of a minimum for this this proposal then. And my question, I just want to kind of elaborate on the context of my question, because our MDP, I think section of 7, this is a philosophical question about the interpretation of MDP as we're seeing this type of densification and housing types. But obviously we have green space and backyards. We've just seen Pine View residents say that we really enjoy this, this type of space that we have right now. So how does the amount of applications that we've seen for densified housing products align itself with private green space and our overall master plan for usable natural areas? In this case, they're private. We have public, and I know probably think about that a bit more.
Through your worship to Councillor Nguyen, I'll try to answer your question. I'm not 100% sure I entirely got it. However, as Terence said, there is a maximum coverage that is prescribed through the land use bylaw. But that doesn't take into consideration the concrete part. So it's really up to the user how much green space they want. There could be two philosophies, like some really appreciate the green and soft landscape, but some may not have time to maintain it. So I think we see both types of users, and it's really up to the personal, I think it's a personal choice what they want to do. Sometimes we do take a look at from the drainage perspective if we need certain minimum amount of soft landscaping. I think we had introduced those kinds of regulations in some narrow housing districts, like minimum, I don't remember the percentage, but in the front yard, you have to have minimum this much of soft landscaping. So sometimes we look at those technicalities, but really it comes down to the usage, and then the land use bylaw basically prescribes what's the site coverage is.
Okay, thanks for that. It's more of a technical answer than the kind of general question that I asked, but I'll take that for face value. Appreciate the answer, and it's good to know that this product kind of encompasses some options in terms of what's going to be done. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. That looks like all of the questions. So I'll just have you take your seats. And at this point in time, I know we have Jamie Kolarchuk and Chris Davis registered. However, I do have somebody in the audience, and I'm just going to see, are you here to speak in favor of any of the bylaws today, ma'am? Yeah. No? Okay. I just wanted, because I'm only asking because it's always difficult for the developers to answer questions after somebody's come up if they're after them. So I just wanted to double check. So it's okay. Yeah. Yeah, I can't take comments. Okay, thank you. So at this point in time, and I've been advised that you only want to be here to answer questions. You have no presentation. So if that's the case, you can come up together because there is no presentation. We're in. So you're here just to answer questions. And I recall from the last time you were here, I think it was anyway, I think the question that I've been asking lately is about sales. Like what's the, how are people looking at these products? Just push the button. Yeah.
Sure, to your worship. I'm not sure if we can present what we have on our screen here. We don't have a formal presentation, but we do have some material that we did bring. So this figure here shows the areas that are included within the zoning or the land use bylaw amendment that was brought forward today. With respect to sales, stage 12, you can see my cursor here, stage 12A and stage 12B are the blocks of single detached lots along West Park Drive and Ficus Way, and they included the DC that Taryn had mentioned, as well as a standard RC district. So the lots along West Park Drive are nearly fully built out, and all of the lots are sold to third-party buyers, which means people who are actually going to own the unit, rather than sometimes they'll sell to builders, and then the builders will develop them ultimately and sell them. So West Park Drive has been all sold out. Ficus Way is well on its way. I actually have a drawing here. It doesn't quite get all of Ficus Way, which is on the north side. But then as we go to the center, the blocks here on the north and south side of Maple Lane, that would be the row housing that we brought forward last spring, with the 3-story on the north side and the 2-story on the south side. And so all of the red are units that have been sold in pre-sale before they've actually been constructed. We have right now, I think it's 11 or 12 firm sales, 6 pending sales, which is nearly half of the lots, and we don't even have any units built. So talking to Streetside, who's our multifamily builder and who is constructing these, they're expecting they're going to sell out this year. Hence why we're looking at another stage where we're able to introduce more of these in stage 14, as well as a duplex version of it. Does that answer the question?
Well, yeah, it does, because without getting into debate, I think it's important that council understands if there is a demand for the product or not. Do you mind me asking what kind of price points you're at?
Sure, yeah. This is current information, so it is subject to change, but the 2-story units are starting at about $310,000 for a 14-foot unit, and that includes landscaping, fencing, allowance for appliances. It's basically all in starting price at about $310 for the 2 stories, and then the 3 stories would be about $330 for a starting point for a similar unit.
Okay. No, I appreciate that. I think that's really valuable information on any presentations going forward, that if we know what's selling, what people are asking for, because sometimes we think we know everything and we don't. Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. Councillor Harris, on questions?
Yeah, I guess it's a question I asked of the planning staff. Mobilizing to do your servicing is not cheap. Had you guys contemplated just going in there? Because it's not a big block of land. How many phases have you got, or stages have you got left? Because I would have thought it would have made sense to service it all up, net of that MDR that's tucked in beside West Park Drive.
Through you, Mayor Ketcher, to Councillor Harris. So this here is our phasing plan, and you could see how large of an area we've been developing in West Park. So this goes back to the early 2000s. If you're considering, how much development takes place over about 2 decades. So where we're at right now is south of Woodbridge Link and west of West Park Drive. Mm-hmm. I think it was 2021 that we did stage 12A. Yep. 2021, 2022, stage 12A. Last year we did stage 12B and 13, which are these 2 stages. The total there was, off the top of my head, it was over 110, maybe 110, 120 lots. Typically in a given year in Forest Ridge, we're probably averaging sales of say 50 lots or so. the last couple of years have been fairly robust, but we're never sure if that's going to slow down, when it's going to slow down. We do have these cycles here. And so the reason that we phase it like we do is we want to ensure that we have enough inventory available to supply the market for 1.5 to 2 years, but we don't really want to go beyond that because, number one, we're sitting on lots, service lots that we've had to finance. We have to obviously pay taxes on, but also the type of lot and house that people are looking for can change pretty rapidly. So if we oversupply a certain type of unit, we may end up getting stuck with a bunch of lots that we can't sell and then have to discount because they're not as desirable. So those are some of the reasons why we do things in these types of phases. You're right, we are getting near the end. We probably, after this stage, have 2 small stages or 1 large stage left. This year, the intent is not to actually service the entire green area, which is stage 14, just because we are seeing a little bit more hesitation in the market. So we are going to ensure that we have all of our approvals in place so that if things do continue to be positive, that we'll be able to go ahead with the whole thing. But when we're looking at this, the green area, our stage 14 is 133 lots. So for me, that's 2.5 to 3 years of supply potentially, based on historic averages. And we just don't want to overcommit to what we're doing here. And so that's part of the reason why we're not doing it all at once right now.
So the balance of the area, call it to the west of the 2-story that are in the ground right now. I drove by there the other day because my daughter lives in the area over on Willow Link, and I saw a lot of sold signs. So I thought that was a pretty good thing. But I guess it's future RC development, which will again be a little wider pocket in that regard. That would be kind of in your next phase of development that at this point in time you'd end up looking at next year most likely.
So if we're looking at the area in yellow, which is basically the remaining area that would fall under the more typical lower density, it's not zoned at this time. It's not, we don't have a formal plan in place for that. But I guess what I can say is typically what we've been doing along the south side on Point O' Pins is a little bit larger lots, and then we've been transitioning to more traditional lots on the north side of that. And then as we get closer to the access points to Windsor, getting introducing a little more density. So there may be a variety of options there as well. But I know the question did come up regarding densities and what that looks like, and I think Shri did a good job in answering that. But I just do want to note, while we are introducing some higher densities in this node, sort of in context to this future MDR site and in relation to West Park, as we get further, we are still providing more typical traditional options. So you see that all in these yellow blocks here. That's where you'd have your more standard front drive, double car garage lots. And, in this stage, they range from 24-foot wide building pockets, sort of more central, 24 and 26. And then as we get further south, they get a little larger, up to 36 feet wide on the south side here. So the overall average density, we're still keeping it in that range. It's just we're sort of setting up in nodes a little bit more than what might have been done historically.
Yeah, when I asked that original question, I was just curious from a development standpoint. Obviously, you come forward with original development many years ago, would have been much lower density, and ultimately you factor your business case in relation to as you do development in stages. So that was kind of what I was looking at. So ultimately, you are going to have enough product that will satisfy both the high density and the little lower density going forward with this particular rezoning application.
Correct.
Okay, good. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. That looks like all the questions. So thank you for coming out this afternoon. I'm not seeing anybody else in the audience that So with that, I'll invite administration to come back. So I'll just ask if there's any final questions of administration. If not, I will close the public hearing at 2:40 and go to, oh, no question. Okay, just double checking. Go to business arising from the public hearing.
Administration recommends the following motion that council approve the Forest Ridge Outline Plan amendment as described in the council report.
Okay, thank you very much. So okay, Councillor Blizzard.
I'm just ready to make the motion if you want.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay, I'll make a motion that council approve the amendment to the Forest Ridge Outline Plan. Do you want it all read or as presented?
As presented is fine.
As presented.
All right, thank you. Would you like to speak to the motion?
Yeah, and speaking to that, I think this provides a nice diversity. I'm not sure if I'd want to have a 3-story house that I have to run up and down. My 2 is quite a bit, but it does present some options for lots of people, and it sounds like houses are selling that are like that. So,
Okay, thank you. Motion is open for discussion and debate. This is on the outline plan. Not seeing any. Anything on close?
no.
I'll close the motion. Please cast your vote. And that is carried unanimously. Did you want to continue?
Sure. Hang on. I'll make a motion that council gives second reading to bylaw C1-25 to amend land use bylaw C23-20 as presented.
All right, thank you very much. Would you like to speak to it?
No.
Okay, thank you. It is open for discussion and debate. I'm just going to make a comment, and I was really curious to see how things are selling, and I find in Fort Saskatchewan right now we are a very hot market. So people seem to want the diversity in being able to find housing that they can choose to live in at different price points. And it's nice to see that we can have additional people living in West Park, that it's not all single family homes, that people have an option to live in West Park. So I think it's very beneficial. But that's why I was curious to ask, what the sales were like there. And it's very pleased to see that people are buying, and they're buying them up before you're even getting them built. So that should speak volumes for your product. Councillor Nguyen on discussion and debate.
Yeah, I was going to make a comment kind of similar to what you mentioned, Mayor. I think it's great to see a diversity of housing types. This area down there is extremely desirable. It's right next to River Valley and a huge area of green space corridor. So if we have some higher densification, I guess it means to me that more people are going to be able to enjoy the amenities down there, the green space and everything else. I guess the only concern that I have is to potentially see a neighborhood where there's going to be some parking issues and some frustration with residents, but that goes when any type of these products are proposed for an extensive amount of area, which this is in itself. So I think it'll be a nice array of products down there and add to the West Park geographical landscape.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Blizzard on close.
Nothing else.
Nothing on close for second reading. The motion is now closed. Please cast your vote. And that is carried unanimously, and you can continue with third.
I make a motion that council give third reading to bylaw C1-25 to amend land use bylaw C23-20 as presented.
Thank you. Do you have anything further to speak to it?
No.
All right. Anything further on discussion and debate? Okay, not seeing anything on close?
No.
All right. Then I will close the motion for third reading. Please cast your vote. And that is carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Okay, we will continue on with public hearing number 2 for bylaw C225 to amend land use bylaw C2320 to redistrict lands in Sienna, second and third reading. And we have Scott Punch. Is it Punch? Punch. Pooch?
Perch, sorry.
Perch. Okay. Bifocal contact lenses, they are, looks like an N. Welcome. So same process as before. Administration will present once I've opened the public hearing. Council will ask questions. Then we will have an opportunity for anybody to come and speak in favor or opposed. Following that, we'll have administration come back, answer any final questions, close the public hearing, and deal with the business arising from the public hearing. So welcome, Scott. I will open the public hearing at 2:46, I think it is.
Okay. All right. Good afternoon, Your Worship and members of council. So my name is Scott Perich. I'm a planner with the city here, and I am presenting a brief summary of bylaw C2-25 to amend the land use bylaw in order to introduce a new special district and redistrict lands within Sienna. And to discuss the Sienna outline plan amendments. For the outline of the presentation, I'll start with a brief overview of the location. Next, what the proposed amendment entails, information about the areas that are being redistricted, the new proposed special district, and amendments to the corresponding outline plan. Then we'll discuss administration support and communications. So to begin, on October 3rd, 2024, Davis Consulting, on behalf of Fort Saskatchewan Developments North, applied to amend the land use bylaw to introduce a new special district and to redistrict lands. The amendment area is located within Sienna Community, north of Sienna Boulevard, west of Range Road 224, south of 87th Ave, and just east of Sequoia Bend. So this amendment proposes the introduction of a new special district called Sienna Single Detached Housing District, or SSDH for short. The SSDH district will replace the existing DCA 19 Direct Control Sienna Residential District. The applicant is proposing this unique special district in order to allow for a smaller single detached lots, specifically in order to accommodate 18-foot building pockets for detached homes. However, allowing for different housing options serves residents of different household sizes, lifestyles, and incomes while supporting walkable neighborhoods and housing affordability. The benefit of mixed housing neighborhood creates an inclusive neighborhood designed to meet a broad range of household needs. Increasing housing diversity is also an objective of both the Municipal Development Plan and the South Fort Area Structure Plan. In addition to the introduction of the new SSDH district, this proposed amendment will redistrict lands to the new SSDH district and the existing RC comprehensively planned district. The RC district is a standard district within the land use bylaw and commonly used for single detached, semi-detached, and multi-attached dwellings. So this amendment proposes to redistrict approximately 7.12 hectares in total. A portion of the area will be redistricted from UR, Urban Reserve, approximately 2.55 hectares, and Parks and Recreation, approximately 0.48 hectares, to the RC district, which is highlighted in the pinkish purplish area on screen. Additionally, another portion of the area will be redistricted from Urban Reserve, approximately 3.09 hectares, to the new SSDH district, which is highlighted in orange. And as the SSDH district is also replacing the DCA 19 district, a portion of existing DCA 19 will become SSDH, or sorry, approximately 1 hectare will become SSDH. So before delving into the district, it's important to discuss the switch from direct control to special district. Direct control are used to exercise specific or heightened control over the use or development of a specific area. So you'll want to use direct control when there are unique conditions or constraints that make using a standard district impractical or impossible. An example would be if there was a parcel located in proximity to a specifically vulnerable or sensitive area, such as an environmental area. Using direct control, you could mitigate those impacts and create regulations that would be suitable for development. A special district is similar to a direct control, as you do limit the application of the district to a specific area. In this case, the SSDH district will only apply to a small area within the Sienna community. However, the reason to switch to special district is because the development area lacks the exceptional circumstances or constraints that would warrant heightened regulations. Therefore, using a special district would be considered more appropriate, as it is the tool for accommodating innovative development or site-specific design needs without additional regulations, red tape, and implications of a direct control district. So next, I would like to draw your attention to the regulations of the new SSDH district. So this district will be replacing the existing DCA 19 direct control district. The SSDH district is largely the same as the existing DCA 19 with some minor changes. So the purpose of the SSDH district remains the same, which is to accommodate street-oriented single detached dwellings on narrow lots with rear lane vehicle access. This is reflected in the uses, which remain the same and are largely limited to single detached housing. Where they differ is that the SSDH district reduces the minimum site depth from 34 meters to 33 meters. It reduces the minimum site width from 8.5 meters to 7.9 meters. This is a reduction in building pocket from 20 feet to 18 feet. It also reduces the flanking yard setback from 3 meters to 2.3 meters. And it would introduce a new side yard setback specifically for accessory buildings, which would reduce it from the original setback of 1 meter to 0.9 meters in order to allow for 2-car garages on the narrowest single detached lot permitted under this district, which again is 7.9 meters wide. So next, the attached figure identifying the applicable area will be changed. Here we can see this will add roughly 3.09 hectares of land to the proposed district area, bringing it from roughly 1 hectare to 4.09 hectares. This is also reflected in the districting plan shown earlier. And now I'd like to discuss the proposed amendment to the outline plan. So an outline plan's purpose is to articulate the finer grain details such as block configuration, roads, and lane locations. For reference, I've included the accepted outline plan concept map on the screen and the proposed concept map, which highlights the amendment area. The purpose of the application is to adjust the overall layout in order to better accommodate the new SSDH district by removing the cul-de-sacs and adjusting the MR space. There is no reduction in the MR being provided, it is only being reorganized. Additionally, you may note that one of the public utility lots is being removed as it is no longer necessary with the new configuration. However, under the land use and statistic page of the outline plan, you may note that the stormwater and public utility lots numbers have gone up, and the total density has gone down. This is because there was an error in the previously approved statistics that is being corrected with this amendment. And finally, there are some very minor textual amendments to Section 5 of the outline plan, just adding the SSDH district to the list of districts used within the Sienna outline plan and removing the DCA 19 district from that list. So next, I want to speak about the conformance to the city's planning documents. So does the purpose of the amendment align with the policies of the Municipal Development Plan and the South Fort Area Structure Plan? The proposed redistricting allows for narrow single detached housing under the SSDH district in tandem with the RC district, which allows for single detached, semi-detached, and multi-attached. This application will allow for a mix of housing types, which will meet the broad housing needs of the community by introducing a breadth of housing types and building pockets. By integrating these types of dwellings, the proposed redistricting creates a neighborhood that provides housing diversity, market affordability, and accommodates preferences of different lifestyles, which is encouraged by the MDP and the South Fort ASP. Additionally, the proposed outline plan amendment also aligns with the MDP and South Fort ASP. Therefore, administration supports the amendment applications. So this bylaw was advertised and circulated to landowners within 100 meters of the redistricting area, which amounted to 147 landowners. Following first reading, the public hearing was advertised in Fort Record for 2 consecutive weeks. Noted again, notices were delivered to property owners within 100 meters of the amendment area, and notice of the proposed bylaw was posted on the city's website and social media accounts. No responses were received. And at this time, I would like to answer any questions, should you have any. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. So I'll open it up to any questions. Councillor Blizzard.
So with the 18-foot wide lots, they're front car garages, because you said that's going to be the side yards or what do you call it? The accessory building is at 0.9 to allow for double car garage. So is there any availability of on-street parking there?
Through your worship, yes, there should still be availability within on-street parking. As to the extent of it, I would leave that to the applicants to give you a better details of that.
Okay, thank you.
Through your worship to Councillor Blizzard, these are lane accessed housing only. So these would be rear garages, which would be two car garages. But this district is only for the lane accessed garages.
But it's across, like the lanes are the one, but on the outside circle, they don't have lanes behind them.
Through your worship to Councillor
all do.
Blizzard, that would be your standard RC district, and it will not have 18-foot houses.
Oh, okay. Okay, thank you.
Okay, you're good. Councillor Nguyen, questions?
Yeah, my question just has to do with access. So out of Sienna, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it looks like we have one access to the east, which is Range Road 224 or 101st Street as it goes into Fort Saskatchewan, and then 2 accesses to the west to 94th Street. As this area is built out, is that sufficient? Are we trying to direct traffic to the west? Will that be enough to accommodate the traffic flow at full build out? And I guess what's the rationale behind this design for the infrastructure, the collector and our 2 roadways that exist?
Through your worship, so when these plans are put together, there is a traffic impact assessment done right with the area structure plan to kind of identify the amount of traffic that's going to be generated with this development. And at that point, that's where it's determined what sort of infrastructure is needed in order to support that. And so it's already been determined that it would be okay. However, for minor changes like these, I don't imagine there'd be a large impact, enough of an impact to warrant adding additional accesses to the entire area for the Sienna area. Again, that's something I think that the applicant could answer better than I can, but it should have been addressed through the TIA at the ASP.
Yeah, and I'm sure it was. I'm just kind of curious if there's anything else planned to the southeast, because it seemed like that would make utmost sense. But thanks for that answer.
Okay, that looks like all the questions on that one. So I'll have you take your seats and I will ask if anybody wishes to speak in favor or opposed. I'm just, okay. If not, Jamie Kolarchuk and Chris Davis are here to answer any questions. Since you don't have a presentation, I will allow for you both to be here at the same time. And I will ask if there's any questions. Did you want?
Yes, might as well. Yeah, would you care to comment on my last question and just at full build out? Just curious, direction of traffic flow and what you read from the TIA, and if there will be more. It doesn't look like from this outline plan that, or the staging plan that you have before us, that there is any other access points to the east planned for the entirety of this section of Sienna.
No, just push the button.
It was on. Through your worship to Councillor Nguyen. Yeah, there aren't any additional east-west access points planned. I don't have the overall area structure plan for South Fort here. But if you look at the larger context, the ASP was planned for more than 4 quarter sections of land. So it includes these lands, the 2 quarter sections to the south, the MLC development to the west, as well as, I believe, Strata's development to the southwest of that. So if we're looking big picture, the arterial road network and connectivity is identified in that plan to accommodate development within this area. But what you'll see, within this area is typically you'll have collector roads that interconnect between the neighborhoods. So if you go east to west through the roundabout towards the west, that'll connect through MLC's land. Eventually, as development progresses further south, these will all connect south as well to forget the Southridge Boulevard. But that's all going to take time. As development progresses, we'll see those connections being made.
Right, and I would just hope that the infrastructure is in place prior to commencement of anything further to the south, because at full build out in this area, you're going to see
We're
people
just
driving.
asking
Oh,
questions
sorry.
right now.
Yeah, okay. Can you build up a road for those guys in the bottom corner? All right. Yeah. Thanks for that answer.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other clarifying questions for the developers? Doesn't look like it. Looks like you're off the hook. All right. Thank you very much. I'll invite administration back. And thank you for coming out today. So I will ask if there's any further questions of administration before I close this. Not looking like any further questions, so I will close the public hearing at 3:03 and go into business arising from the public hearing.
Thank you. Administration is recommending that council approve the amendment to the Sienna outline plan as described in the council report.
Okay, thank you. What is the wish of council? Councillor Macon.
Thank you. I can make the motion that council approve the amendment to the Sienna outline plan as described in the council report.
Okay, thank you. I'll accept the plan. Do you wish to speak to it?
Only say much like the last one that we just approved. This is a highly diverse area with a variety of housing types that I think will truly meet the needs of our community into the future. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. It's open for discussion and debate. Not seeing any. Anything on close?
Nothing further.
And I'll close the motion. Please cast your vote. And that is carried unanimously. Would you like to proceed with the next one?
Sure, I'll make the motion that council give second reading to bylaw C225 to amend land use bylaw C2320 as presented.
Thank you. Do you wish to speak to that one?
I'm good, thank you.
Thank you. It's open for discussion and debate. Okay, not seeing any, then I will close the motion. Please cast your vote. And that is carried unanimously. You can go ahead with third.
I'll make the motion that council give third reading to bylaw C2-25 to amend land use bylaw C23-20 as presented.
Thank you. Do you have anything further on speaking in favor?
No, thank you.
It's open for discussion and debate. Okay, not seeing any. I will close the motion. Please cast your vote. And that is carried unanimously. Thank you very much. All right, we will move on to. Do you want a break?
Well, I don't. We have fire. That could be a while. Yeah.
Okay, so I am being asked for a little comfort break. So we're at 3:06. Let's come back at 3:15. So we'll recess to 3:15. Okay, it's 3:15, so we will resume the meeting. All right, we're resuming the meeting and we have fire hall scoping study proposed dates. All right,
Good afternoon, Your Worship, members of
Edgington.
council. I'm in front of you here today to continue our discussion around a proposed agenda to support further discussion around the fire station scoping study. I've got both Chief Martins and Deputy Chief Buchanan here as well to support this discussion. Purpose of our report today is to provide council with a proposed presentation and report structure to help guide further discussion with council pertaining to the fire station scoping study. On March 11th, administration was here in front of you presenting our fire station scoping study. Council did direct from that meeting for administration to prepare a report outlining the time requirements to further assess the fire services scoping study. So we have had some internal discussions and have identified 7 topics for discussion. Within the report, each of those topics has been identified with a brief description to help provide context for council on the scope of those discussions. Administration is proposing dedicating an agenda that would explore each of these topics in depth. Each of the 7 topics, I'll just go through them really quickly. The topics would explore the fire master plan, staffing and operations, existing facility and equipment, the emergency coordination center, training facility, off-site levies and funding, and fire hall design and costs. Administration is proposing that the May 27th regular council meeting be designated exclusively for further discussion pertaining to the fire station scoping study. And as part of that, administration would provide a detailed report to support council's discussion. Administration has provided some motions as part of this report to either include or remove items from this agenda for council's consideration, and have provided 2 motions to support the discussion as per the May 27th proposed regular council meeting. That concludes my presentation and can take any questions that council might have.
Okay, thank you very much for the presentation. So I will open it up for questions. So just so that I'm clear on what we're discussing today, so it's choosing a date, and then is it asking if there's additional information or if we should delete some of these items or
Your Worship, administration has 2 motions in front of you. One is to choose a date for when the discussion would happen. Currently, administration is proposing dedicating the May 27th regular council meeting to have that discussion. And then as part to support that discussion, administration is prepared to produce a report. And we have scoped that report through those 7 topics within our request for decision report here that we would use to base the agenda for that meeting, and then also to provide the detailed report to support those discussions.
okay. I just wanted to double check so that I don't limit what the conversation is. So I will open it up for questions. Councillor Macon.
I'm not really sure it is a question for administration. I guess I'm just looking for feedback, probably more so from council if anyone wants to weigh in. I was under the impression that it would come back sooner than this. I think 2 months away is too long to be having this discussion. And I was under the impression that we were looking at a separate meeting to have this. After the last meeting, we were asked to make sure our calendars were updated so we could make sure that everyone was here for the discussion. And it just happens to be on the only day that I'm unavailable for the entire year. So I was just like, I think it's too far away. I was expecting this to come back sooner, and I'm just wondering what everyone else's expectation was, because I thought it was going to be a specially planned meeting, not on a council date, although I do understand if there was nothing on this date, why administration did recommend it.
Okay, I'm going to go to Mr. Fleming.
Yeah, through your worship, I'll take ownership for this being my suggestion. Just that in agenda review, we had noticed that the May 13th and May 27th council meetings had little or no content on them yet. So our thought was, why schedule a special meeting if we have regular meetings that could accommodate, and then it avoids us having to create another meeting. a suggestion I could make here is when the motion gets made, just move it with the May 13th council meeting date, and then that makes it a little bit sooner and gets it around the date that you're unavailable for. The only reason we had it where we did, and we were actually considering dates in June, is the further off you get, the more refined the information will be around levies, because that is work that's still underway. But we can do it sooner. It just means the precision with which we provide information on levies won't be quite as good if we go sooner. So, but I think May 13th could be accommodated, and we'll give the best information we have at that time.
Can I make the motion? Or, who made the last motion? Oh, just a second. I think there's questions, so just a second. Councillor Kelly?
Thank you, Mayor Catcher. I'm uncertain, I guess. You're following, for this particular item, typical council procedure. We'll hold our comments until a motion's actually made.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. I'll wait.
Okay, thank you. I don't care. Go ahead, Councillor Blizzard.
I'll make the motion. I'll make a motion that council approve the May 13th, 2025 regular council meeting agenda as attached as Appendix A to the March 25th, 2025 request for decision limiting items of business to the fire station scoping study.
Okay, thank you. So that will change. Mr. Kaiser will. You wish to speak to that?
Just that I'm okay with further discussion, and May 13th is fine.
Okay, thank you. It's open for discussion and debate. Councillor Kelly? Do you have debate on this?
I do. Thank you. I appreciate it. I know administration did not get a lot of time to come up with this. I appreciate that. I suspect also it was unexpected. Administration didn't expect it. So I appreciate the work that's been put into this report in front of us. As I read it, though, it felt like the plan was to come back to council, reviewing everything to point to the fact that we should have a $25 million new fire hall as opposed to something perhaps much less costly and still suitable. So I'd like administration to give me an indication, please, as to how they plan on approaching this from completely exploring all of the possible options so that council has in front of them all of the options.
Paul?
Through your worship to Councillor Kelly, is part of the proposed agenda, item number 7, fire hall design and costs. Administration has taken feedback from the previous council meeting and have touched base with our team here internally, as well as the consultant that we're working with, to come up with 2 additional options. So one would be like more of a base model, more of a basic fire hall as per the discussion at the last council meeting. And then there's another option that we foresee being one above the medium option that was provided. So just a few more permutations and combinations for council to consider, and we would have some of that information ready with cost estimates and stuff like that for the discussion when it takes place if it takes place on May 13th.
Okay, and for what it's worth, I don't need to have a go through of the fire master plan again. I would like to have a discussion on staffing. I would like to have discussion on the off-site levies. So delete, from my perspective, delete the fire master plan. Mayor Catcher, I've got one more point I'd like to make if I have the time. If not, come back to me. Your call.
Go ahead and make it, and then I've got 2 on the list.
You bet. Thank you. A couple weeks ago, well, after the last council meeting, when this subject came up, I did some research. I came across a research article put out by NFPA. It's dated 31 March 23, and it talks about home structure fires. The top of the, and I did send all of Council Land to Mr. Fleming a link to this particular piece of document. Under the key findings at the top of the document, I would point Council to, I think it's the 5th paragraph, the last paragraph under key findings. Their key findings are that, and I'm going to paraphrase this, home fires themselves over the last 50 years, the rate of fires per population have dropped off somewhere in the order of 50% or more. Deaths from home fires in the last 50 years have dropped off by a factor of about 2/3. However, the death rate per 1,000 fires, so the chances of being injured in any particular fire, has remained relatively constant over that period of time. They conclude, and I'm just going to swing my phone around here so I get larger print, bear with me for a second. The conclusion in that section, and this is important in my mind, and this is their conclusion. It appears that most of the reduction in fire deaths over the past decades has been due to a reduction in fires rather than the prevention of them after a fire is reported. That's consistent with my basic and understanding and research that I did over the years as this subject has come before council multiple times. So what I'd like to ask of administration and council, obviously you weigh in as you see fit, but that administration gives some thought to how the trends and the technology and the drop in deaths can be further enhanced in Fort Saskatchewan. In other words, could it be possible that a combined approach, focusing more on prevention and less on response, might actually save more property and more lives for the same cost? And I'd like to have that discussion. I think it's time, perhaps, for the traditional delivery of fire services to be re-examined. I'm going to leave it at that. I will raise this issue at the council meeting when this comes up again, and I am hopeful that we can have a robust discussion around it at that time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Macon.
Thanks. Just a quick question. I was just curious what administration believed the plan was after we have all these discussions. Is the intention to make a decision that during that meeting or bring it back for a decision discussion at a later date?
Through your worship to Councillor Macon, the plan as it sits right now is to schedule a dedicated meeting exclusively for this topic, and then to schedule a separate meeting to come back for a decision on the fire station scoping study.
Okay, that's what I thought it was, but I just wanted to make sure I understood that correctly. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Nguyen.
Yeah, Paul, you mentioned that there are going to be 2 other designs presented to council during this meeting. I was going to request that happen, or some sort of other costing options and subsequent design and be shown. What would be the price point of either of these that you're going to be presenting?
Your worship, through to Councillor Nguyen. So what we're looking at is it would be, we took concept 1 and stripped away some of the amenities in concept 1. So concept 1 should come in less than what we proposed for the concept 1, which the actual building was around that 11 1.2 million, I think, for the building, and the concept between concept 3 and 2, whether you call it a 2.5, would be kind of a combination of a removal of the second floor of concept 3. And seeing how we can reconfigure into that concept 2, possibly with an ECC. So that's what we're looking at. I don't know if that cost will be cheaper than the concept 3, but that's kind of what we're flushing out right now, is coming back with that Class D estimate and have that ready for the next meeting.
Okay, yeah, good to know, and I didn't need too much detail at this point, but I was wondering what was being done. I guess we're obviously not getting a brand new design done by the consultant. That would cost a great deal of money extra. Yeah, and then also for the training tower, it's become apparent to me that industry has a training tower that may or may not be useful right now. I don't know if that was mentioned through an email thread or not, but I was going to ask for some sort of consideration. It doesn't have to be a formal report, but maybe just what your thoughts are on using a facility like that we have access to, or could have access to, within Fort Saskatchewan. So perhaps you can make some comments, and it can wait till the meeting if you'd like. So yeah, thanks.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Harris.
Chief Martin, I guess to Councillor Kelly's question. So we've had a number of residential structure fires in the time that we've been on council. And I don't know if there's anything that prevention could have done to stop those. Those are created by people who live in their homes, do stupid things like put cigarettes in the planters in the back and do odd things like that. And so there's no way you can prevent that. So ultimately, the only response we've got is response. Is that a fair assessment from a fire protection standpoint?
Your worship, through to Councillor Harris. So, I mean, for the fire department, we always strive with public education and educating our citizens the best we can. But you're not wrong by saying we will always have fires, we will always have accidents, and just how we can reduce that through public education, whether that's more engagement or not. But you are correct. We still are seeing these. I'd also like to note it's not just about fires that the fire department does. We respond to motor vehicle collisions, medicals, cats and trees, low embankment, high rise, low slope, you name it. So it's not just about fire too. And I think having that level of service that council has set with what we see now will help us move forward. But again, public education is always one thing that we do. The challenge is that it is what you just said. It's up to the individual and how they go about it.
So is it fair to say that we are at a kind of a critical juncture in relation to the growth of our community and planning for emergency response, that ultimately a second fire hall has become required to support our growth going forward? And ultimately what we're proposing is 3 options that ultimately are costed to allow us to make a decision, a strategic decision, I might add, sooner rather than later to move forward. So ultimately, would you assess that the responses to the 7 topic areas that we've raised will allow us to do that appropriately on May the 13th, or whatever date that is?
Your worship, through to Councillor Harris, yes, the topics that we've provided should give that extra information that council would need to then land on one of the concepts that that we've outlined based on response, the training, the ECC, future growth that we're looking at, and hopefully we can figure out what's needed for that concept and as we move forward.
Well, thanks for that. I've already made my decision. I have had enough information to make a decision as to where we need to go. So that's where we'll come from in that discussion. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. I'm next in the speaking order. So I don't really have a question for you. personally, I don't support having to have another meeting and then delaying it another meeting, because delay and delay. But I will support the motion if majority of council requires additional information or would like to go into this a little bit deeper. But I feel from the report that was given to us a couple weeks ago, it was sufficient. It was very detailed, and I was comfortable at that meeting supporting the motion that had come on. So, but we need to make sure council is comfortable. So I'll leave it with that. Okay, round two, Councillor Kelly.
Yes, thank you. Just want to respond briefly to some of the comments that were just made. I didn't suggest, and certainly did not intend to suggest, and don't believe I suggested, that fires wouldn't continue to happen and that we wouldn't have a fire department. But if we're going to make, as a council, a strategic decision, the strategic decision to be strategic needs to look at all of the information. And that includes fire trends and fire statistics, and what saves lives and what has saved lives over the last 5 decades. And it is worthwhile having a discussion. And I'm a little bit surprised that it could be suggested that my mind is already made up. I would encourage council to find that email. It's roughly 2 weeks ago. It's within a day of the last meeting. If you don't have it, I can certainly resend it. The report is by an authoritative source, and it is worth reading. It really is. I consider it important information, and it's information that certainly would be important to reach a strategic decision. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Looks like all of the discussion and debate on that. I'll go to Councillor Blizzard on close. Push your button. Your button. Go ahead.
I just have one, I guess, question. So you were talking about taking option 1 and even stripping it down more. At what point is it not going to be a useful fire hall? You know, if you strip it down, to me, option 1 was the basic. What you need, so how can you strip it down more without making it's just a garage and it's not going to be useful enough? So I would hate to see that. I see that more council wants discussion. I'm okay with that. I don't really need it, but in an ideal world, we wouldn't need a fire department. We wouldn't need a police. Everyone would just behave. Everyone would do what they're supposed to do, and we wouldn't have fires other than lightning, which we can't prevent. But we don't live in an ideal world. People do butt out cigarettes where they shouldn't. Accidents happen, candles tip over. So we do need the fire department. How important is it? Well, a lot of times it's like insurance. It's not important until something happens and I need you at my house. So I don't think sometimes people value it enough, but I think it is very important. I'm willing to hear more options, but I also think that, if we're going to do it, give us the option where you feel that we're going to do it right. We're going to do it the first time and not come back in 3 years going, we should have. So I'm looking forward to more discussion, I guess.
Okay, thank you. The motion is now closed. Please cast your vote. And that is carried unanimously. Thank you. Items 9.2, 9.3, and 10.1 were all done by...
Oh, sorry. Excuse me, Your Worship. There was a second motion in the report.
Sorry.
The first is for the scheduling of the meeting, and then the second one is for the contents of the report.
Right. Sorry, we had already jumped on to the next one. Yes, Mr. Edgington.
Through your worship, apologies for not jumping in on this as we were going through the presentation. The motion that is in front of you for option 2 essentially would approve the agenda, all 7 of those topics as proposed. Through the discussion, Councillor Kelly did suggest that he didn't need item number 1, Fire Master Plan. As well, there was a second item around fire administration trends or firefighting trends that would be looked upon as a separate topic. So just wanted to note if there are any topics that council would like to add or remove, that those motions are made as part of this meeting.
I make the motion, and then we can decide if we want to take anything off or on.
Okay, I'll make the motion as written. So I make a motion that council direct administration to prepare a report containing further analysis of the fire station scoping study as set out in the March 25th, 2025 request for decision, and that the report be brought back to council during the May 13th, 2025 regular council meeting. And speaking to this, I don't know that I need the fire master plan, lots of information, but I don't need it. And if stats are needed, I'd be okay with some changes.
Okay, thank you. So I'll open this one up for discussion and debate. Councillor Kelly.
Thank you. So if I understand correctly, if we want to remove one of these bullet points, we need a motion of council to remove it. And if we want to add a bullet point, we need a motion of council to add it.
I think what we could do is get asked the question, and I can ask if there's consent. If anybody doesn't agree with it, then I would take a motion.
All right, Mayor Katcher, would you please ask if there's consent to remove bullet point number 1, fire master plan, from the discussion?
Okay, so is there any objection to removing the fire master plan? Yeah, you can. Second? Yes, just second.
So my question on that only would be that, I mean, in preparing for this meeting, we're going through the master plan, and we have questions pertaining to that. Can we still bring them up during that meeting if we're removing it?
Then I would suggest just leave it. We can condense it.
Yeah, I guess that would just be my comment.
So I would say we don't.
The point I'm trying, pardon me, Mayor Katcher, but the point I'm trying to make is that this is a full agenda. The fire master plan can, of course, be part of the discussions. And if there's an issue that's within that plan at a particular council, or even if administration wants to raise a particular issue or point from the plan, then of course it's relevant, bring it up. But I don't need a 10-minute or a 15-minute or a 30-minute update on the fire master plan. That's my point.
Okay, so I'm not seeing consensus to remove it off of here. I would suggest that it stay on as what's on here, but then it can be just limited to any questions or just reducing it. Mr. Fleming?
Yeah, through your worship, that's acceptable. We'll keep that in mind in our presentation. This list is meant to inform administration as to what to prepare for and to present when we come back. I don't think there's anything that's going to limit the discussion when we're back, as long as it's germane to the topic in some way. The reason we structured this way is we had gone back and watched the previous council meeting a couple times to try to figure out what was needed, and there wasn't necessarily agreement on council as to what we should be doing when we came back. So that's why we wanted to get the information that we're preparing sort of endorsed by council. But again, I don't see it limiting what could come up when we're back.
Okay.
So we can leave it, if you want to just leave the topic on there, and we will just make sure it's a light touch when we come back in terms of the presentation.
I think that'll be fine. Councillor Kelly, you still have the floor.
Thank you very much. Then I would like to ask if there's consensus to add administrative discussion, findings if possible, and recommendations if possible, incorporating the data found within the NFPA research article dated 31 March 23 entitled Home Structure Fires. All of council has that. Again, it's important. That does show, in my mind, how the bulk of lives have been saved and the decrease in fires and the rationale, pardon me, not the rationale, but the causes for the drop in fire rate and fire death rate from residential fires. That's important to consider when you're looking at future spending to save lives and save property. That's the only point I'm trying to make. It needs to be considered.
Okay.
Doesn't need an hour again, needs to be considered. Thank you. Thank you for the interruption too, by the way.
I'm going to ask if there's consensus, and I'm seeing some shaking of heads. So I would go to a motion to add that as an agenda item.
Then please, I'm going to ask Andrew to cobble a motion together. Andrew, I'll start talking. Tell me when to quit. But that a bullet point be added for administration discussion and analysis of the NFPA research article entitled Home Structure Fires, dated 31 March 23. And any other relevant data that may or may not support that particular research.
Okay, Mr. Kaiser.
Yeah, through your worship to Councillor Kelly. I'm not sure if you can see the screen we're sharing, but I've prepared a draft motion for your consideration. I think this includes the report.
I do have it. Give me a second, please. It's not direct administration to prepare a report, to include in your report a discussion on this subject. Or maybe that's what it says.
Yeah, the structure is, well, it accomplishes the same intent. It's just structured kind of in the reverse order as to what you said, but it achieves the same intent. It would be a portion of the report.
I'm not seeing it, Andrew. I have in front of me a motion that says, it starts out that council direct and finishes with, what it talks about fire station scoping study, but it doesn't reference the particular article that I'm referencing. Maybe I'm missing something here.
It reads that council direct administration to include the NFPA report of March 31st, 2023, titled Home Structure Fires in the Fire Station Scoping Study Administrative Report, to return to council on May 13th, 2025.
Thank you. Now, it was up just before you started to speak, Mayor Catcher. Could I get admin to put it up so I can have a glance at it, please? It was up. There we go. Thank you.
Is it up now for you?
It is. I'm reading it. Thank you. Okay, thank you.
Okay, do you have
That sounds
anything
good.
further to speak to it?
I don't know why any member of council wouldn't want to have a discussion on, when we're talking about spending a potential $25 million on what seems to be the trend and what has happened across North America. But call the vote as far as I'm concerned.
Okay, thank you. So this is the motion that's on the floor to add that to the agenda, and I actually am not going to support that. I think the information that we have is sufficient. That's a older report. It is information. I think we can all look it up. But anyway, on that basis, I won't be supporting it. Councillor Harris?
You know, I realize information is crucial in making decisions, but I've had enough information, and with the information that will come forward on the 13th, that will hopefully fill in any blanks that might exist. I don't need this. I think we're making a strategic decision about building a fire hall, whether it's a little fire hall or a big fire hall. Something that will ultimately do us for a little while before we have to expand it, or something that we build now, and then we grow into it over time with staffing and equipment over time. Service level changes, in other words, and future councils can do that. So I don't see the need for this information. I read that, I looked at it. It's all I needed to do. I don't have to have another discussion on this thing. So I can't support that ad, because that's just additional administrative time when it's, in my opinion, not necessary. So.
Okay. Anything on close, Councillor Kelly, on your motion?
Nothing further. I think the intent and is obvious. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The motion is closed. Please cast your vote. And the motion is carried, so that will be included on there. Is there anything else anybody wishes to add or take off? Okay, I'm not seeing anybody with their hands up. Councillor Blizzard, Councillor Harris, you're finished? Sorry. Okay, Councillor Blizzard, anything on close? Okay, on the second motion then, I will close the motion. Please cast your vote. And that is carried unanimously. Thank you very much. All right, moving on, we have no bylaws, notice of motions. Councillor Kelly, understood you had one. You want it to read in? Did you?
I do. Thank you, Mayor Catcher. It took me a second. Andrew, do you have it? I know Troy and I talked about it. Do you have it available to put up for council to see, please?
Yes, I do. Just a moment and I'll scroll to it here.
Thank you. It was the combined motion that yourself, I think, drafted for Troy prior to the last meeting.
Go for it. Okay, you should be able to see it in just a second here.
Perfect. Okay, Mayor Catcher. At the next council meeting, scheduled for the second Tuesday of April, I will present the motion that is in front of council right now. I won't read it all in unless instructed by yourself. The council can read the motion.
Okay. Okay. Mr. Kaiser, does it need to have the date on there? It doesn't have the council date. It just says.
Yeah, for a notice of motion, usually it's at the next regularly scheduled council meeting. The preamble isn't in here, but that's the intent. It would be the April 8th regular council meeting.
Okay, I just like to double check on that. Okay, so everybody's had an opportunity to read that. We're not voting on it. It is.
Thank you.
Mr. Fleming, just a question on no later than July 8th. Just double checking the wording.
Yeah, through your worship, I'm just going forward in my calendar here, but the intent was that it be back before the summer break, and July 8th is the last meeting for the summer break.
Okay, nope, that's good. Just checking my calendar, and it is a scheduled meeting. So don't take your vacations too early. Okay, thank you. All right, so I will accept that. Thank you. I understand, Councillor Nguyen, you also had a notice of motion.
I do, so I'll give notice that at the next regular scheduled council meeting, I will move the council rescind the motion made at the March 11, 2025 regular council meeting stating the capital project 25008 water tower refurbishment as set out in the 2025 capital budget be referred to administration to produce new designs that aligns with the city's visual identity, and that the report be brought back to council no later than the end of April 2025.
Okay, thank you. All right. Question for administration, given that there was direction, I'll accept that in a second. Given that there was direction given at the last one, you have consultants working on the design. Should there be I'm going to say a notice of motion now to pause the work, or are you able to do that?
Yeah, through your worship, if I'm following the direction of council as given at the last meeting, we did hire a design firm to start the work, and they were in progress on that. So as time passes, more funds are being expended. I think the maximum amount of the work, it's being done within the existing budget within our communications department. And it was probably going to be work in the range of $5,000 to $10,000. So as time passes, dollars are being spent. So maybe we can bring this up in the city manager update and have more discussion on it about pausing the work in light of the notice of motion, but.
Well, we don't make decisions in camera.
That is correct. In theory, it's onward and upward until we're told otherwise. So that's why we provided council the option of advancing the debate today. But you certainly don't have to do that, and we can be back in 2 weeks and discuss it.
I'm going to, let's see, who's my deputy? You're my deputy? Okay. So I'll turn the chair over to you, but I'll put a notice of motion on that at the next meeting that we pause the work on this, but I'm also going to ask for consensus to waive so that we can actually vote on pausing it for now. So I'm going to ask the question, does anybody have an objection with pausing it so that we waive it and then we can just discuss it to pause it? I know it sounds complicated, but I think Mr. Fleming needs direction and we shouldn't be spending money if we are going in a different direction. Okay, I'm not seeing a lot of people saying that, so if we can put the motion up then, it'll just become a motion to pause the design work.
Sorry, to your worship.
Mr. Fleming can help you.
Yeah, the notice of motion that Councillor Nguyen put forward was that the direction to proceed with the redesign be rescinded. So is your intent that notice of motion be voted on, or?
No, I've accepted his. What I'm suggesting, as I asked Mr. Fleming, is not to spend any more money until we know the outcome of this in April. Do you want to take just a couple minutes? We'll just take a 2 or 3 minute recess. We won't leave the room, but Mr. Fleming can help him. So we are in recess.
I think then you have to waive the notice period.
Okay, if you want to put the motions up, so then. Okay, do I have to do the other motion first, or can I just do this one?
So I tried to capture your initial intent in the indented paragraph. That, in my mind, was what you were trying to accomplish with your notice of motion. And then the motion that would have to be made in order to vote on this now would be the non-indented paragraph at the beginning. So that's
After.
essentially the motion to be voted on.
So there'll be another one that'll come up after?
The first motion to be voted on would be the non-indented paragraph that you waive the notification period. And then that would enable you to vote on the second indented paragraph being your initial motion, as I see it.
We have to vote on it, they're telling us.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll turn the
The
chair
waiving
over.
of notification provisions would have to be voted
Okay,
on.
so Deputy Mayor, turn your button on. All right.
Okay, we're back in session, and we have a motion on the floor that council waive the notification period for the notice of motion pursuant to section 27.3 of the meeting procedures bylaw C2922, and immediately vote on a subsequent motion follow. So with that, are there any questions, observations, or comments?
Deputy Chair, could I ask?
Because I made a motion, so that's the motion, that's fine. That's the motion that I would
You're
read
making
in.
that motion? Okay.
Yes.
So,
Let's make sure
Could
my
I-
name goes on the motion.
so Mayor Ketcher is making that motion for clarification.
Just the first two lines, not the bottom part yet.
Councillor Harris, I'm not at all clear on what is happening. A motion flashed up on the screen and then immediately disappeared. So could we get the motion up, leave it there, and then have Mayor Catcher describe what it is we're doing or that she's contemplating doing?
Thank you for that clarification, Councillor Kelly. The mayor has made the motion that I had actually described, but I will turn it to her to read her motion into the record one more time. So please listen to this. If
Okay.
it's not on your screen.
Yeah, so then my motion is just that council waive the notification period for the notice of motion that I just spoke to section 2713 of the meeting procedures bylaw C2922, and immediately vote on a subsequent motion. So I'm just, the first motion is just to waive the notification period. And the reason that I was putting that forward because, as Mr. Fleming indicated, he does not have direction to stop doing design work and spending money on, because the motion was passed before to do that. So basically, if we waive notice, then and it takes 5 out of 7 to waive notice, then we can vote on pausing the project so that no more money is spent as of today until we have this discussion.
Okay, if that's
Does that
there,
mean
any
that-
questions about that, Councillor Kelly?
My apologies for interrupting. Put me on the list for questions, Councillor Harris. I'll ask it when it's my turn.
Okay, you are the one that's got a question, so please ask your question.
Thank you. So those motions, and I think I see two then, one to waive, and then the second one for the actual motion. If both of those pass, does that mean then that Councillor Noyan's notice of motion is no longer needed?
No, it doesn't. I think we're dealing with the first two lines as the motion that requires 5 out of 7 members of council to vote for that. And that basically puts a pause on it. And then there'll be a second motion that we put forward.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, with that, I will then close and call the question. So, And that motion passes unanimously, so we have a successful thing. So now what?
The second motion.
Now we have the second motion. Can we bring that up?
So then the next motion is that the design work related to 2025 capital budget capital project 25008 water tower refurbishment for producing new designs which aligns with the city's visual identity as discussed during the March 11th, 2025 regular council meeting be halted until further council discussion on April 8th.
So I'll accept that motion. Are there any questions concerning the motion? Not seeing any, I will then close the floor and call the question. And that motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'll take the chair back. All right, thank you. So are there any points of interest? Councillor Blizzard? Whoops, just a second.
Yes, I have a big point of interest. I've been on the library board since last October. The library does way more than just lend books. It has physical books, CDs, DVDs, audiobooks, newspapers, magazines, and then there are online e-books. You can get magazines, all kinds of access to different things inside. There's 3D printer, button maker, Lego wall. Anyways, way more. But the one thing that people forget is that the library is a non-profit entity. We have a board of directors and we have a budget, and we are a non-profit that gives taxable receipts, or tax deductible, not tax deductible receipts. And a few years ago in Seattle, they started with promoting that people learn that we are nonprofits by having a library giving day. And it's a day so that we encourage people to make a donation. As long as there's a minimum $20 donation, you get a tax deductible receipt. And so Library Giving Day is next Tuesday, April 1st, and our library, I don't know if you can see this here, if you zoom in, our library is encouraging people to extend the day, so it's April 1st to the 8th, and we're encouraging donations to get some of the programs in that are not covered by current funds. There's a lot of things in the library that we would like to do, and we need a little more money for that. So I encourage all of you, and if you need information, please feel free to contact me at my email address with the city, and anyone making a donation, I also have some stickers that you can get, and I'll give you a deck of cards too. So let me know if you make a donation.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Macon, points of interest.
Yes, thank you. So this past Saturday, Mayor Ketcher, Councillor Abatoy, Councillor Nguyen, and myself participated in Sledge Hockey Day in support of the Robin Hood Association. We actually were part of Team Fort Sask for the tournament, and it was a really successful day for the Robin Hood Association. We had a lot of fun. We were probably all, I can probably bet, very sore the next day, but it was a great time, and maybe next year we can get an even bigger team down there. We were supplemented on our team by our friends at the Robin Hood, and they were so good. They literally were skating circles around us. So I just wanted to share what a great experience that was, and great job to the Robin Hood Association, their planning committee, for putting on such a wonderful day.
Great. Thank you for sharing that. It was an excellent day. Encourage anybody who's got upper body strength to do it. And a lot of wind, because it was hard. I've never made it through 3 games, but it was hard. Even Councillor Nguyen had to sit out for that. Okay. Any other points of interest? Okay. Any inquiries of council to administration? Okay. Not seeing any, then I'll take a motion to go in camera. Councillor Nguyen.
Yeah, I'll move that council enter in camera to discuss matters which fall under the Freedom of Information and Privacy Act. I forget the number offhand. That's the motion.
It's okay. Thank you. Please cast your vote. And that is carried unanimously. We'll just take 5 or 6 minutes while we transition.